should not be hearing that. All right, looks like we are live on Facebook. So this one's you over here, of course. And of course, this is a new medium. I'm Charles. This is Tom. Say hey, Tom.
Hey.
So this is Ask a Paramedic Anything. Gotta reset my camera focus. There's my pretty face. All right, come on, refocus. My camera's being fuzzy. I hate that. But we are on Facebook Live on the Georgia Institute of EMS Facebook page. So hopefully you're there watching it with us. There we are. So now I'll be able to make sure I get the chat going. That's what Tom's looking at on his iPad. You got yourself over there. Very, very cool. Well, hey, why don't you talk about the new awesome backdrop you have? Because see, Tom being the boss gets the look at me, I'm beautiful backdrop. I get the hey minion, you got the gray wall behind you backdrop.
Well, you know. Well, we've been working a lot here, and one of the projects that I'm working on this year is redoing the school a lot. And we started in the back and working our way, or from the front and working our way towards the back. We have actually redid the common area. We're going to call it the common area now, the lobby or the lobby.
Nice.
There's
nice.
sitting out there for students, and we need to get a photo of that, you know, or something. Maybe I'll run out there in just a little bit and
do a photo, yeah.
Do a photo or something.
That'd be good.
Maybe next week we could do a tour, hopefully, but we're not quite there yet. We've got my office finished. I got my bookshelf. We've had so many books around here that instructors use. Some of them students need to use them. I use them and stuff, and we needed somewhere to get them. So I wanted a bookshelf in my office. And me and a friend of mine, Clint, and one of the guys here, Jeremy, we've been working on this for almost a month and got this finished up and got my office finally finished. Because I've been basically in a closet for a while.
Yeah,
so,
yes, you were. And we actually did the first couple episodes from
the closet.
Yeah,
we came out of the closet, Charles. Yeah, there we go. But we needed room. And I needed room to have meetings, to talk to people, and to do stuff like this. So we've got some room now, and I think it looks pretty good.
I'm just checking your volume on here. Everything's good. So as I've said over the past few weeks, this is less of a show. We start off maybe trying to do a podcast show, but really it's about the discussion and about just how you'd be if you sat around and asked the questions of senior medics and people who are seasoned. And I put in the description all the time of what we do on Facebook, which is I believe education starts when you hit the street. It's really the foundation's laid in the school, and then you have to start learning when you hit the street. And today I want to talk about a couple of different things, but the renovations are great. You always have to grow and change, right? I'm going through a paramedic refresher course because the state requires that you stay up to date on your education. You always have to be moving. Because I think there's a correlation between how you've done the renovations here at the school to how you change what you learn, maybe your specialties as a medic or the path you take through school. So did you shut the school down, basically tear everything to the ground and build it from the ground up?
Yeah.
What did you do for your changes?
We've had to work around everything. So it's been a work in progress. And it doesn't come overnight. It comes, a little at a time. And sometimes it's frustrating because it seems like the momentum is so slow.
Right.
However, you're still getting towards your goal as long as you plug at it every day. You get something done. Something accomplished every day. And every day you're a step closer to finishing that goal.
Is there a way, because it seems like every school's on a deadline, and I imagine, and this is my honest question about Georgia Institute of EMS, I imagine here, while we're more flexible with schedules, there's still a deadline. When you start class, there is a deadline to finish the class, right?
Right.
Is there a way, if you got halfway through the class and life happened, you had to pull out, could you come back and start at the point you left off, or is it always start to finish?
You got to start. Unfortunately, you have to start over. I wish you could do that, but the state won't allow it. You have to start over from the beginning. But the thing is, that knowledge that you got is still there. So you should be able to fly right through it.
That makes sense.
And if you can't fly right through it, well, then you needed it.
Yeah. You were telling me about challenging the paramedic National Registry, which, as you can see, I'm pushing my temple hard every time I think about National Registry. But you were like, yo, it'll be a lot easier since you have experience under your belt. Because the first time I took it and failed it was had only EMT experience. And I think I see that in my son now. I'm teaching him different things in school, and I see that he overthinks. He doesn't keep it simple, get to the simplest thing. I did pass it eventually the second time because I was more determined. And going through the refresher course, I find that it's easier. There's a lot of dust in there. There's a lot of med terms that you don't really use that much terminology in the field. Mm-hmm. I've been out of the active field for a while now, but when we got to cardiology, which was newer in my memory, doing the heart rhythms, nailed all the heart rhythms, nailed a lot of the treatments for it. Although I wanted to give 50 milligrams of atropine. I was like, atropine. James was like, yeah, that's it. How much you give? I went, something about 50 pops in my mind. He's like, no, it's 0.5. So, but I was.
But you had the 5.
But you got the 5, right? Technically, that's half, which is 50%. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying is you're right. The knowledge stays, and the refresher shows me, hey, really, with just the refresher, everything's back going here in these areas. But there's other areas. Now you need to go relearn that, and that's kind of what you're talking about with the class. And you've kind of found that with this remodeling, I think, as well. Is you walked me through the plans and what was going to happen. Well, things changed. Mm-hmm. Life happened. That was out of your control, and now you're shifting your plans around, but it's still coming together, right? Everything's still, because you have your eyes on your ultimate goal. Mm-hmm. My ultimate goal is to get paid, so I don't know if that's enough to get past the test.
Well, I'll tell you, we had the beds delivered for our hospital beds delivered.
Right.
So we have 2 new hospital beds back there, which are good, which that lab is coming along.
And that's for CNA.
CNA, but also for the EMT and advanced EMT too.
To learn how to take good naps, the proper position to keep your uniform correct.
You don't want to get your neck correct and stuff like that. Want to be comfortable, pillow between your legs on your side.
How to lie perfectly still so you don't put folds in your uniform so nobody knows you can sleep in. These are good lessons to learn.
I used to sleep naked. I mean,
I'm glad you had your own bunk room.
No, you were there.
Oh, there was one, man. One of the fire stations I worked at, the chief had his own room, but he always just slept in boxers. And whenever the alarms would go off, he would just come on out, and everybody else slept mostly dressed. You're in a joint, your male-female bunk room. But he was it's like the old dad man thing came through.
Look at that.
See, this is why it's not a show. It's just things happen. That's life. And that's how we do this. So I see Melissa Stout Bradley saying thumbs up, so thank you. This is Ask a Paramedic Anything. You can ask Tom, the director of the school here. You can ask myself, the guy who's just learning as I go. But we both had extensive paramedic things going on. Always moving forward, right? We were talking about what it'd take to bring in a paramedic class here, and there's very quickly became it can be done, but it's very, very difficult. And even then, you have to, the business of it all gets entangled. So what's easier? Well, we've talked about different paths because you flow. Why did you start this kind of school, the hybrid? What does the hybrid mean? What does it mean?
The hybrid is a mixture of online learning and in-class learning. And the issues that I've seen people have is that I know that there's a huge group of people out there that want to be an EMT but couldn't be an EMT because of the traditional model of the way it was taught. So we came up with a method that would allow the majority of the class, like somewhere between 60-70% of the class, to be taught online. And then they could come into the classroom 2 days a month, 2 4-hour sessions a month during the week, or 1 8-hour session over a weekend, depending on what class you joined in.
Sure.
Come on. How many hours are in a month? There's a lot. You can find 8 hours somewhere to get this done. And that's what we did. So we have a lot of different lab options out there available for folks to try to help them get into, the program that they want to be in.
Absolutely. I'm just missing BK jumped on said hey, so I'm just commenting back for him. I'm glad that you're watching BK. Uh, yeah, yeah, man. When I got laid off technically in 2010, my office was getting shut down that I worked for, and we were getting layoff packages. And I was thinking, I looked at IT. I have certifications in the IT world, of course. At that point, I'd let my paramedic lapse, my numbers lapse, but I still had the knowledge. I had the cardiology, I had the CCT certification. So I started looking at different areas to go in. But I'm the breadwinner for my family. My wife takes care of the kids. We have 4 kids. Now she's actually helping take care of her family as well. So it just doesn't work out to have 2 jobs, right? I'm the guy who has to bring in the money. Starting from the beginning, I mean, with my certification in IT is A plus, which is help desk up to level 3 or something like that. I mean, I could easily be a supervisor, but the certification on paper says these are what you do. That started at, I was making $18 an hour to feed my family. The help desk started at sometimes $8 an hour, sometimes 10. The highest was like 12. That's not good enough. Talk about the model of your school. If I wanted to become an EMT or a paramedic today, it's out of the question.
Right.
Because how am I supposed to work my work schedule the way I work and do my things around a locked in 4 hour a night, 2 nights, 3 nights a week for a year, plus weekend clinicals, plus testing, plus, there's a lot plus ride along. When I said clinicals, I was thinking actually hands-on practicals. That's what I meant to say. Then there's clinicals. We have to ride 8 hours on a truck and be in the ER. I can't do that. That's out of the question. When you talk about being able to, at 2 o'clock in the morning, when I have free time, I can do an hour lecture and do the quiz online. I know testing is officially in house, whatever. But I can do the measurement goals, the quizzes and whatnot, and then schedule a Saturday to be here. That I can do, and then that makes doing clinicals a lot easier.
Right.
That's today's model. I mean, entrepreneurism is on a rise for a reason, because working for the man is not what it was 40 years ago.
Right. But let me tell you, there's a lot of pushback from the schools and stuff, other schools, and it's capitalism. This is the real world. This is what America was founded on, competition in the marketplace. Yeah. And unfortunately, in this sector of business, competition is hard because a lot of the providers out there are all in bed with each other, per se. The technical schools, they are all state schools, so they are all one thing, right?
Under the university system.
Yeah, they don't want anybody. They want to do it the way they want to do it, and they think everybody should do it their way. Then here we come, we're taking students from them, they don't like it. So I've had a lot of challenges with that in the very beginning. We worked through those challenges with the state office of EMS. Luckily, they were very objective. They followed the rules. They did, that part of the system worked very well.
And that's to be expected when there's a perception of a finite amount of money, and now you're taking a piece of it.
Well, it's like for the accreditation thing, and I'll just go ahead and say it, that I used to be, and I want to say this, that I used to be a flag-carrying, banner-waving, staunch supporter of accreditation. Everybody needed to be accredited for a paramedic program. Now, I am totally on the opposite end of the banner. What I have come to find out, in my opinion, of accreditation is a way that the big schools have all gotten together to keep the small schools like us from doing programs like that. And it is not right. It's not fair, and I think it's a way that big schools have regulated smaller schools like us that could provide the services to the people who need it out. So there's only one option. So what the accreditation done is it's driven the cost up, because when supply is low and demand is high, what happens to cost? Cost goes up. So it's raised cost. Pretty much what it would cost for me just to be able to teach the program, I would have to pay over somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000
Mm.
in fees just to teach the class. So our program, we would only be thinking of doing 12 to 18 students a year. Not a lot.
Right. Because the class is roughly a year long.
Right. For
Right.
paramedic.
For paramedic.
For paramedic.
For just paramedic.
Just
yeah.
paramedic. Not EMT or advanced EMT. Just paramedic. To go through all this. $30,000 to outside agencies that is going to give us nothing in return except for a certificate that says, oh, you can teach paramedic.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they're going to do. Really?
Yeah. Yeah, you got to look at what you gain from it. And we've always talked about with paramedic, with the test, right?
Yeah.
I can understand when a hospital's hiring a doctor, right? There's definitely different levels of hospitals and whatever. They'll look at where'd you place in your class? How'd you perform? You know, if you performed lower in your class, graduating class, what school did you go to? Because, you know, all the top-notch Ivy League schools are better than the state schools. That's the perception. I'm not saying that's the truth. But I can see on a doctor level, if you performed lower in your school, you went to a lower tier school, you might do a couple years at smaller hospitals to prove yourself to then move up to bigger ones. There are different challenges. But when it comes to paramedic, across the board universally, with some, I would leave room for some minor changes withstanding. With paramedic, it's, do you have your numbers? Yep. All right. Get on the truck. We're going to treat you like a human being and see what you do. And as a human being, do you make the grade? But the paramedic is literally, you get a 71, you pass. You get 100, you pass. Numbers are numbers. And that's why I've never thought accreditation. In fact, the two schools I went to weren't accredited because they were continuing education pushed off in the corner classes. And you're talking about mid 90s and to late 90s is when I went to school twice.
Question: check the video because to me, on mine, it's like super choppy.
It's choppy. I'm not sure what to do about that, but it is choppy.
Are you connected to the 5 gigahertz?
I am on. You know what? That's a good question to check. So I will check and see which one I am on. The guest network.
Yeah, that could be one.
So and there's a guest too. EMS2 guest.
Can you see a 5 gigahertz?
This computer won't do that. This computer only does
what about
the 2.
just the GAIMS?
I got that one.
You might do better on that one.
All right.
Is that going to kick us off though?
It could, yeah. Swapping over, it could kick us off. We'll just have to see how it plays out, and we'll work on it next time.
Yeah.
Because that's also how life goes, right?
Right.
You see how things work. You learn from your mistakes. Hopefully, they're safe mistakes and not deadly ones. That's the question. What are the deadly sins of paramedic medicine? What the ones that say there's no excuse for this mistake. You have to go. I'm not talking about the criminal, where you can face charges. But like you ran Newton, or you were a captain supervisor at Newton for a while. What's the mistake that says, no, this is never going to happen, you can't be here?
Well, abusing a patient.
Okay.
Abusing your partner.
Right. Now you're talking about physical. What about
Physical or
emotional, mental?
Yeah,
Okay.
just being, Now, mutual combat's 2 different things where you're just arguing, just don't get along.
Sure.
I'm talking about actually
degrading your partner in front of a patient is always
Yeah.
a big no-no to me.
Yeah.
I would.
Not
Yeah.
reporting a medication error.
Okay.
You make a medication error, you need to own up to it.
Sure.
And get that fixed. Not showing up to work on time, excessively. I get you.
Sure. Because everybody, it's a machine. The cogs roll forward, and if your cog, being you, aren't there on time, or aren't there at all, somebody has to fill that spot.
Mm-hmm.
James was just talking about, I don't know the details, so it's not like he's going to mess up anything in the community, but somebody got in trouble somewhere for shutting down a truck because people weren't on it.
Yeah.
And as a political thing, it is the reverse. When I was at Jasper, was medics routinely wouldn't show up, and all right, well, shut down the truck. We have one truck running this today, and I did what I could to fix that. But that's the thing: if you don't have the staff to run the service, and you're let's say you're a county-based service, so it's not like you're going anywhere, right? The service, private services, you're in jeopardy, right? If you're a private service, you're contracted to keep up X amount of people, X amount of trucks, those kind of things. But as a county service, you exist,
Right.
right? A lot has to go wrong, and a community outcry has to be large for a county service to swap away from county run to anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So be that as it is, what is the ramifications of shutting down a truck?
It could be deadly for somebody.
I think so.
I mean, that goes against the mission, or your organization's mission statement, the reason why you exist.
Yeah.
I think if you are not dedicated to do this, you shouldn't do it.
And then we're not talking about the things that happen, a death in the family, car wreck on the way.
Yeah,
we're talking.
We all get that. We're talking about I slept late.
Yeah.
And
you said excessively.
Excessive.
You did say, when you said that, you did say excessively.
Excessive. People make mistakes.
Yeah.
Stuff happens. I do, because I know there's people I know there's been times where I've been late and people get worried because I'm never late. You're supposed to be early, It's like 5 minutes late. Well, you usually hear about 30 minutes before your shift starts. Sorry.
Yeah.
It happened, but, that's just the way, it kind of should be. You should be dedicated. There's a level of dedication that comes to this, because our actions can have lifelong ramifications for people.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided to do this to ease suffering, not cause or add to suffering.
Sure. This is one of the few industries, it's the one industry I've personally been in, and I'm sure there's a few similar, that business runs backwards, right? So the standard business, you want to be busy because that's what brings in the money. You open up a mom and pop coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
You want your people always having to work because customers are coming in. That's the flow of business. Customers come in, you're serving them, you get paid, it goes to the overhead, but also puts money in your pocket as a server. I used to say this when I was younger, and I realized the error of my ways at some point, because that dichotomy just clicked in and went, wait a minute, I like sitting around doing nothing, but if we're doing nothing, that means we're not making money. If we're not making money, I'm going to lose my job. That finally clicked in. But there is a mindset out there like, oh my God, it's so busy. And usually it's from younger people, and I get you don't understand. You want it to be busy. Money's not magic. But EMS is different. Not that you don't want it to be busy. I guess theoretically, we never want it to be busy, because if we're busy means people are dying, people are hurting, they're suffering, and we're doing what we can to stop that. But typically, income is not based on how busy you are.
I think
but at the same time,
I think that's like us, right? As the responders,
mm-hmm.
We kind of justify that in those ways, because we can justify. I mean, I can justify that. Hey, I really don't want to run any calls, because if I run calls, that means somebody's hurting, somebody's hurt
mm-hmm.
or something. Mm-hmm. But I also want to get paid.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You do have to, at some level, justify your existence to whoever's giving you money. The county stipend. Charlie Howell says where he lives, they have Grady EMS. Grady still has to pay for those trucks. It's the income from the hospital. I'm assuming most hospitals have some kind of county stipend or state, some kind of external funding besides insurance.
But not everybody does that.
That's true. That's true.
Some private services don't get anything.
Yeah.
The only thing they get is the money that
they earn, that they run. That's why they run non-emergency transports as well.
And our industry, and there's been so many times, as a captain, I've listened to people complain about running calls, and I'm like, well, how many calls you run today? Oh, we ran 4 calls. So you work 24 hours, but you only work on
Let's
average?
say 4 hours,
4 hours.
1 hour a call.
Really?
Roughly. Sure.
And you're complaining?
Yeah, no. See, that's getting to attitude versus the business side of it.
Yeah.
Dude, I had that. I got bad attitude when I was a brand new EMT and I was surrounded by people. I worked in Morgan County at Fairplay, one of the slowest stations. No, I'll tell you about it. The second station in Jasper was the slowest I've ever been. But Morgan County is a rural, small county. Most people leave out of the county and go to work during the day. Athens is one way, Conyers is the other, and Atlanta and so on. And Macon, even from there, you can go down to Macon. So they leave the county. So it's somewhat slow. In the evenings, it could pick up, but there's no major wrecks mostly. I mean, sometimes, yeah, sure, you got I-20 running through Morgan County, but it's slow. There could be days you go with no calls, and man, I'd get to where, and I was younger, but I adopted a bad attitude that was around me, and I'd get to where the tones would drop. I'm like, yeah, I'd say certain words, son of a gun, but that wasn't exactly it, and I would not want to do things, and then especially that non-emergency transport. I will clarify right now before I tell the story. I to this day hate when anybody calls it anything else but non-emergency transport. You know, they call it granny totes. There's something with a lizard. I can't remember what's it. There's a it's not derogatory. It's a negative phrase. Lizard something. I don't remember because older people have tough skin. I forget what it's called, but I got such a bad attitude. And then Huey Atkins actually sat me down and helped explain the business. Morgan County did give a stipend. I don't know what it was, but it was not enough to pay my salary, much less keep everything afloat. Well, I mean, technically, I guess it could pay 1 or 2 salaries, whatever. But that was in the business. That was helpful. That's what a stipend is. It helps, but you got carried. So those non-emergency transports are what put money in my pocket.
Right.
And that helped change my attitude a little bit. But the other thing that changed my attitude was a specific transport we had to do regularly. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So 2 days out of the week, typically, I would, if you fell on Tuesday, Thursday, you'd miss it. But otherwise, I'd get 2 transports. And we changed that person's life by just saying, this is what's going to happen. There's no way around it. Having a bad attitude helps nobody. And coming in knowing we're just sometimes that was the only call we ran all day, Tom. And I had a bad attitude about running it. That's something you have. That's on you. That's on you and how you perceive it.
And you got to take it that there's no industry out there that's just going to pay you to sit there and watch TV all day.
Right.
You know, even.
Right.
I mean, you just got to go. You got to go do something to make the money.
You have to justify why you're making money.
Yeah, and because here in Georgia, in this part of Georgia, we're pretty lucky. We've got ambulance coverage almost everywhere. Paid ambulance coverage. I don't know of any volunteer services in the metro Atlanta area.
Sure. I know there's 1 or 2 counties that 10 years ago didn't have any EMS.
But you go to some places like Alabama, you have volunteer EMS because
up north too.
Up north it's
New
huge.
England area. Yeah.
Up north, that's what you have is volunteers, and if there's no volunteers available, then hopefully the district next to you has a mutual aid agreement. Maybe there's some available there.
Right.
And you're waiting. If you're not willing to go out and make the money for your employer, we could be volunteers.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be a volunteer. I like what I do, even though there's part of the job I don't like. It doesn't matter what kind of job you have. There's something about that job that you're not going to like.
Typically, yeah.
You know, and we just have to do it.
You know, last week I did the episode on being a good student and how here you have to know who you are to really get through because there's calendar deadlines. That's one of the only things that keeps you accountable is you have the freedom to set what 2 days or even 1 day you come in, depending on what class you're in and how it works out. Before we started the show, you were being flexible with somebody working with them on their schedule, a student, I presume. You know, it flows, but you carry the burden. That's EMS in a nutshell. Is most places, and Charlie's got a question I want to get to in a second. I just letting him know we're going to definitely hit that question. But in most places, you get to find a shift that works for you, right? The trucks will change at different times, so maybe most places work with you on, you have a second job, or this is when you can get in because you're dropping your kids off from school, whatever. There's flexibility. So as much as I can see working for somebody else, you get to set essentially your own schedule, work with the people you want to work with. And when you're not running calls, lots of places are fairly flexible with how you spend your time. But when you do work, you got to be ready to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know who I was when I started in EMS, and I was whiny and a big baby sometimes and complained about it. Also, surprisingly strong and able to step up and do those things. I've heard about people doing standing 24s. I've never done that. I have zero desire to do that. The closest I ever got was I got about 2 hours of sleep spread out over one night. And that hurt. And even on the busiest truck I was ever in, if I could stitch together 3 hours in one block, I could do okay. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I've seen the sun go down and the sun come up. But it's rare. But sometimes you choose to work in those areas. But knowing who I am, I was like, I can go work for DeKalb. I can go apply for, I can say I can apply for DeKalb. I can apply for Gwinnett. I can apply for Grady and any of the big services in Atlanta. But I knew that would be detrimental to me and for them. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't do my best. If you don't know who you are, you're going to have bad attitudes. Because that's what we forget. That's that disconnect. Value for value, if you want me to say it that way. You always have to justify the money being spent. I wear this shirt. It means I'm an employee here. But I feel like I have to we talk to each other. Where do we want to go to where you're getting your value and I'm getting my value? Mm-hmm. And that's what we work on. In EMS, I've been at plenty of stations where I had a TV and I could play my Xbox. And even then, it was absurd to me when somebody complained that we didn't have satellite TV or cable TV. They owe it to us. Like, no, dude. I always dubbed it, tongue in cheek, a retirement station. You're at a retirement station. We'll do, on average, 2 calls a day, at best. Mm-hmm. And you're complaining because they owe you TV. No, they don't. The place that did give you TV, you're working 8-10 calls a shift. Mm-hmm. So you're not even using the TV. That's a cost.
Yep.
What is, unless you got something else you want to say about this, I got a question here. What is our opinion on contract or private EMS, is what I'm reading into this, instead of county EMS services? My opinion is it depends on how you're running it. 100% depends on how you're running it. Tom, you've been in a bunch of different areas. What's your general opinion or specific?
I don't really have much of an opinion of it. I think they all work. I mean, look at National EMS, mm-hmm. and they need to start paying us. We talk about National
a lot. Yeah.
So,
I had most of my career was at National.
So they work
mm-hmm.
for Rockdale County and in Morgan County. I mean, it works for them. The thing is about having a private service is that if the county becomes dissatisfied with the mm-hmm. service that is being provided, all they got to do is, when the contract up, is put it up for bid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it kind of, I think, can hold somebody accountable. But
yes.
Once you get into the public, where you've got a county-based service, that county might be stuck with them for a while. It's going to take a lot of political stuff to get that changed.
I've been through that too.
And stuff in the cogs go real slow. The wheels turn real slow in government sometimes.
For me, I'm a businessman. I'm an entrepreneur. I want to move at my speed. Mm-hmm. So I loved National, or their model, because it is private. And I only knew a fraction of what they had to go through, but I got to see a little of how they had to go to the county board meetings and how they had to justify their stuff, and how the reason we did truck day was like twice a week easy was the presentation. I mean, truck day was every day, basically. Mm-hmm. Come in, make sure your truck looks nice, because that's what the people see. Make sure your uniform looks nice. That's what the people see. Be nice. Because, well, yes, in Morgan County, for example, we run a lower amount of calls. That means more eyes are on us. because, well, they don't do a whole lot. Or are they a part of the community? Or are we inserting ourselves as we live here, we work here, we are part of this community? That's important. Territory studies, because most of the dispatchers worked and lived there all their lives. They know you go down the Bow Road and turn at the tree that got struck by lightning 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I had to work extra hard coming from Athens, is where I lived at the time, into Morgan County to do the territory study, so that when I got told that, I didn't have to ask for a cross street and say, I don't know what you're talking about. Versus I was in a county service that needed a private service because we had good people in the service, but it was being run not by the guy who's in charge of it. He was forced to wear a whole bunch of hats. I always try to give him some slack. It was never meant for him to work that over EMS. He just had to because that was his job. But otherwise, we couldn't get what we needed. We couldn't move forward. And so when we as employees said, yeah, bring in a private service, because we desired to do a better job. Half of us lived there at the time. And there was such a power play by commissioners putting one against the other and shifting. I was like, this has nothing to do with what the employees want or what our heart is, which is to help the community. This is all politics. And I still don't know what happened. But you come to Newton County and you have a dual system. You've got county fire and medical responders in county fire, and you've got a hospital-based system. I personally have always hated hospital-based system. Now, I enjoyed my time at Newton, but there were a whole different set of politics with the hospital-based system than with the private or the county. What's been your favorite, personally? Not like where you worked, but the system you worked in. Because I'm assuming you've worked in all three systems.
I've worked in county-based system, hospital-based system, private system, and the military.
Oh, that's right. That's their system, too. So you've had 4.
And then I flew.
Now, what is that considered? Flight? Is that a private system? Because somebody owns the helicopter service.
Private service.
But they usually contract with somebody like Emory. You were with Emory Flight, right?
Yeah.
And that was based off of Emory Hospital.
Well, Emory provided the medical control, and it was kind of like a partnership.
Okay. So it's still private system.
It was owned by Air Methods Corporation.
Okay. All right.
And they pretty much bought out almost everybody, it seems like.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of competition out there. Used to have Rescue Air.
Yeah.
And Emory Flight. Now they merged.
Okay.
So now you have now they're called Air Life Georgia, I think, or something.
Okay.
But they're owned by Air Methods.
That makes sense. Because at a certain level, there's so much expense that goes into it. It's hard to compete. It makes more sense to partner. But what was your favorite?
I think mine
system?
would have been working in Newton.
The hospital-based
system was because the private system I worked in Alabama wasn't good. I didn't like it. I mean, they got in trouble, and the company, I'm not going to name their name, I mean, they got in trouble several times with, because they would hold 911 calls because there was transport coming out of the hospital.
See, that's bad. That's bad juju.
Well,
You always have to take
yeah.
it. That's something, and again, Nationals coming up. I appreciate you'd have administrators who were medics, who their job was to run the company, but if something needed to be handled, 911 had everybody tied up, and you had a non-emergency call ready to go, transport. They'd put a truck up to take it. They would handle it. They would come out from behind their desk, you're a busy man. You know what it is to have to come out from behind your desk. Sometimes, but they would do that. I've worked for 2 private services that are no longer existent. My very first job ever, I don't even remember what the service was called, but it was up on Northside Drive in Atlanta. It was a private service. We did backup for Rural Metro, or whoever had AM. I think it was Rural Metro had that.
I worked for Rural Metro too.
Did you?
Yeah, no.
I never worked for AMR or Rural. I just worked around them. I put in for both at one point and never got a call back. So
yeah, my very first private service gig was the one I was talking about mainly. I don't even really remember their name.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a small service. They had a VA they had the VA contract at the time, and if a VA call came in,
yeah,
they would they would call mutual aid pretty much for the counties they were in. They'd send you on the VA call because they knew they were getting paid on it,
And
and they'd
yeah,
send
that's the wrong way to
another
do it.
service, and they got in big trouble.
Yeah.
But that was just like a mom and pop
Yeah,
thing,
still,
you know. But that was extremely unethical.
yeah. The service I worked for, we would just sit around most of the days not doing anything, and it was bad situation as far as the setup, where we were. We'd run some transports from here to there. Every once in a while we'd get a backup 911 call. Never got paid from them because the way they held it, and then they went bankrupt. And I did get a nice gear bag out of it.
Yeah, I remember you said.
Yeah, I thought about it.
So
The other
your
one,
paycheck.
yes,
Your
yeah.
last
I mean,
paycheck?
I don't.
And that's happened
Yeah.
a lot. I mean, there's been a lot of small services pop up, and you hear that. You know, people show up to work and the
The doors are closed.
doors are closed.
But the ambulance isn't.
Yeah.
You open up the back of that, and I mean, never, ever, ever take anything illegal. Drugs, sharps are iffy. Yeah, but it's the dude. The dude had he had boats and all this other stuff. He was doing skeezy, hiding this under this name and that under that name things. And the other one I worked for that went under, they just had bad business model. Is a kid who his dad is right there by Newton. Actually, I don't care. What are they gonna do? Med One, right there by Newton. Is that little house right there by our station? And I went over there to have a little more freedom of my schedule, do something a little different, and had talked to them, and they were paying me more. And I always had wherever I am, I have aspirations to be bigger, better, more.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, yeah, you can help come run the company and this and that. Okay, well, there wasn't much of a company. It was 2 crews that would sit around all day. A third crew was sent to Atlanta just to sit in case we could pick up an emergency call up there or something. I'm not sure what the point was. And it was just a lot of nothing. And then we get random weird calls. Like I took one from Shepherd Spinal Clinic to home in Kentucky. And that was actually a fun ride. And it was a guy who was paralyzed. And normally his insurance company give him like a limousine or a car service. And something wasn't available. So we apparently fit the criteria for the money. And we knew about it ahead of time. So I was able to bring in a portable TV and a PlayStation. And the guy was 24, 25 years old. And I was under 30. And so we clicked. And, that's a 6-8 hour ride. And we watched movies and played games. And he just needed a supervised ride home, basically. And we do stuff like that. But bad business practices like you're talking about, it'll take you under.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of different services pop up. Even since I left, there's Peach Metro and Peach State, I think, and I've seen a bunch of different ones that are just non-emergency. That they try to get the Medicaid transport contracts, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's worked, and there's a lot of good ones out there too. I know a lot of real good ones out there. And if you are one of those real good ones and you want to say your name, give us a line.
Because obviously we haven't worked for you, so I don't have any reference.
But yeah, there are a lot of good ones out there, and there's some bad ones. Just like there's a lot of good restaurants and a lot of bad restaurants out there, and it is what it is.
Yeah,
that's just life. There's a lot of good and bad. You just got to find them. The market will correct itself.
Yeah.
If you're bad, the market's going to get you. People will stop using you. You'll get in trouble. It'll catch up with you. But if you're good, like a service, if you serve one that we've been talking about that's established here in this community for a while that should advertise with us or something. But, they're proven they've done a good job.
And that's the thing. And hospital-based services aren't safe.
No,
I mean, county's probably the safest because it's power, right? The county controls the flow of money, the budget, everything, and that killed me. It really did bugger me. Well, I'm making up the numbers because I don't remember exactly, but one county-based service I was in, I went to the new budget meeting. This was when we were fighting to try to get a private service in anyway. They wanted to give us a budget of, let's say, what's a good budget for 2 trucks to run? Just 2 trucks.
250, 300,000.
Okay, so they were trying to give us like 200,000. We billed and collected almost $2.5 million in insurance, and they wanted to cut our budget because they couldn't justify. But it's like, we make you money directly, and that's something that's always killed me about non-private.
That's the thing about, the county-based services is that the money doesn't stay in the service. The
Right.
money you make goes to the county, and that gets distributed
Distributed.
out.
Right. And I
Everything.
can understand that on paper, the theory of that. But when you come at me to say, we're going to cut your budget, and I was a freaking lieutenant or captain, whatever it was, had years and years of service, been a captain in other places. I was making $10 an hour. Couldn't feed my family. And they wanted to cut our budget. And we were having a difficult time getting good medics to come anyway. People would come because they saw the need, and they saw that it was a retirement place. I mean, you'd come from Grady or DeKalb where you just ran 18 calls in 24 hours, and you could come here and sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could provide service if called upon. And they wanted to cut it, and it's like, it's ridiculous. When a private service can say, we billed $2 million, we made $2 million.
Right.
That's
the benefit of the private service model. But a issue with the county-based problem is that once you get those bad habits in, it's there. It's like, who else you gonna call? There's no competition.
And in smaller counties, it's harder. I would imagine Newton County is a fairly large population tax base, and it comes down to money. It comes down to money every single time.
All right.
So it's a large tax base. Now I know it's the hospital and the county fire, but let's say with the county, because the county has responders and whatnot. You still always have to fight for a budget, but I got to imagine they're looking for ways to improve the service, get newer equipment, more stations to cut down response times, those kind of things. Whereas at a smaller one, because if somebody came into Newton County Fire, because that's what the county-based service is, and they were that guy you're talking about, always showing up late. Maybe they just didn't even call and didn't show up this time. When they showed up, they had bad attitudes. I got to imagine in Newton County Fire, that's going to be nixed really fast. Whereas at a smaller county, which is where I worked, and I'm not counting Morgan County because that was a private service, but Jasper County, we would have medics who just didn't give a crap. They were aggressive to everybody.
But when you're paying $10 an hour,
Right. But there's nothing we could do as supervisors, anything. Because what happens? Okay, let's fire them. Now what? Now we got nobody to man the truck.
Yep.
And that's where I said this, that I will ride 3 days straight if I have to, but I can't deal with working with this person anymore. My family lives here, and this is not, and that only worked part of the time. So just like we talked about with the expansion of the school, there's only so much you can do physically.
At one time,
you have to make it passive.
Mm-hmm.
Passive is I have to be able to trust on the medic side. We have to trust our team and know that our relief will show up and that and talk to each other. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing at shift change. If I'm relieving you, I really want to find out how you work, how you leave it, and I would love for you to find out how I'd love to get my truck back, because maybe it's two different things.
All right.
Certain people want it spotless, but then they won't inventory all their stuff, make sure they have needles for IVs. Mm-hmm. Whereas I'll come in, I'm more concerned, do I have my equipment? Because I can clean the truck. Well, if you leave it a mess, I'm like, Tom, come on, man. You're being sloppy. Let's not do that. But that's communication, and that's how you get through that.
And teamwork.
Water gun fights in the bunk rooms.
What? Who would do that?
Give us some more questions. We've got a little more time. How long? Okay, yeah, we got about 10 more minutes. So I wanted to. We might not have time for this. I wanted to talk to you about not money compensation. Smoking and drinking in EMS. Smoking is rampant.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of stations try to go smoke free. Do you think that's, from a human resources perspective, that's a viable thing to do?
From a human resources perspective, I would say no smoking.
Okay.
When you're on duty. One, because if you know anything about how insurance works, if I, as a business, choose to be a smoke-free facility, I could save up to 25% on the insurance premiums for everybody.
Sure.
So let me ask you, why should you pay 25% more because I smoke?
Well, I know how 3-card Monty works, and that's a whole lot like insurance. So I don't. That's a whole different conversation, and I get the logic there. I see it as my personal choice as far as insurance goes. If I choose to opt in your system and it's 25% more premium because my coworkers all smoke and I don't, I'm part of the team. So you definitely have to talk about two different sides of that, right? It's
No,
your
I'm
choice,
saying-
it's
I'm
your
saying
health.
I'm the
Right, you're the
HR
smoker.
administrator. I'm
Right.
the HR administrator. I
Okay.
got to do what's right. Remember, you made $10 an hour.
Right.
If your health insurance is $300 a month for you and your family, 25% off that
Mm-hmm.
is that's $75. $75 is almost a half a day's of pay for you.
Yeah.
So that means you're working a half a day for somebody else's addiction.
But then I look at it too, just being honest, is I come in and go, you're not paying me enough for me to even bother with insurance. And I have a whole stance on insurance that's separate from all this. But you're not paying me enough. I never considered, okay, Tom, you're the smoker and I'm not. I never go, well, Tom's smoking, that's not fair to me. I go, no, I make my choices as I go in. And maybe I need to smoke to de-stress.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying smoking is great. I mean, it will kill you, but you're a smart. No, okay, Tom doesn't smoke. It's a bad example. You know the risk as an adult. You should know the risk.
I'm okay with that.
And
as
it's a
long as
high
it
stress
doesn't-
job.
As long as it's not costing somebody else something. If somebody else has to,
I don't know. I think it comes down to everything's costing somebody else something.
yeah, but if I've got to pay almost $100 a month for somebody else to smoke, that's not fair.
I can see. I see what you're saying.
That
I
or
don't
you
know.
can, if you smoke, you can opt out and not to have insurance.
Brent says smokers take smoke
They do.
breaks as a way to do less,
And
but
I
who
can-
wants to smoke like a club?
And I can say that too, as being a business owner and stuff. And I see that. Like the productivity that I get from non-smokers is a lot more than the ones that I get from smokers because they'll take a smoke break, a 15-minute smoke break. Now, most people, you're not supposed to get but a 15-minute break every 4 hours.
Right, that's typical federal law. 15-minute break every 4.
However, a
half hour
smoker
for
will
lunch.
take a 15, 20-minute break every hour on the clock, getting paid. They'll just walk away and disappear and go smoke.
See, I think.
So whenever you add that from a business owner
That's a good one.
standpoint, I add up, let's say on the low side, 10 minutes.
Mhm.
Let's just say 10 minutes. Out of a 8-hour day, that's an hour and a half.
But what about coffee drinkers?
Most coffee drinkers drink as they work.
Right, but they go to the station. They take their time to make their stuff. What about talkers? I mean, we all know there are talkers. I'm a talker. If I stop by your office, I'm supposed to be doing something. I probably would talk to you for 10, 15 minutes before I go do something.
Yeah.
I think it comes to personal responsibility. So I worked in a company where there were definitely people who were lazy, who would take the breaks, whatever. But I knew a guy in my office, he was better than I was. And I'm always really good at what I do. And he was better than I was at making reports. And he would take his smoke breaks or whatever, but he would do twice as much work as anybody else in our department.
And so that's not every smoker.
Right, right.
I'm just saying, if you classify as a business owner, when I'm paying a salary, I expect something in return.
Mhm.
And, like we have students that smoke here, and I've said I don't want people smoking in front of my door out there, but they do it anyway, and I see the cigarette butts all around my door. And it doesn't.
Yeah,
look
see, okay,
professional.
now that is trash. That's, again, personal responsibility. Take care of your
No,
trash.
I shouldn't have to stand over everybody and make them do what
Correct.
they're supposed to do.
And see, now we're talking real world. There shouldn't, and then there is, right?
But there is.
And you
have to eat that and understand
Mhm.
that. And I think the question is should you or shouldn't you? I mean, just my personal opinion is that you can smoke all you want to, but don't do it here.
Sure.
And
as a business owner, that's your right to say that.
Don't do it on the clock.
Yeah.
shouldn't have
So
to.
now I'm gonna have to take up smoking in the middle of the show. I'll be back in a minute, Tom. Just irritate.
However, as a practical sense, as long as it's not affecting operations, I don't, because I've got some smokers, and they take a break when everybody else takes a break. It hasn't been an issue, so I haven't had to break it up. I don't care if they go out there and smoke during, the designated break times. We have a designated break time. That's when you can go smoke.
And there's the smell, and then there's the mess. I know some business owners are like, I'd rather you not smoke, but here I'm going to put a thing for you to put your butts in, and we're going to move it away from the door, because smoking by the door
is wrong.
Because everybody comes in and out of that door.
I don't smell it. I don't smoke.
I hate that at restaurants when people are standing outside. I have nothing against smoking. I mean, I don't particularly smoke cigarettes. I'm nothing against, but there are different brands. The cheap brands smell awful, and even the expensive brands can smell okay. But I'm walking through at a restaurant. You're out front smoking. I have to walk through that to go into the restaurant. Nobody really wants that. I know Newton made their property non-smoking.
That's why they made the property non-smoking. That was part of the deal with the insurance.
And that makes sense.
Lower. And I know that
but then there's still patients who smoke on the property.
Yeah, because but technically
there's technically, and then there is.
And I know that there's issues like, because I know you're not a proponent of insurance. I don't like paying insurance, but I'm going to tell you, if I didn't have insurance, my wife would be walking with a limp right now, because I wouldn't be able to afford the $20,000 or $30,000 to fix her foot. Now we've got some other issues that's come up that she's going to have to pay, and it may be another $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. I would never be able to afford that.
Sure.
With me and my children, growing up, I've needed insurance for them. So it's been a necessity, and if I can save people money, I'd rather save them money.
I get that.
Than make it affordable for them based off. It's like, but, if you want to go home and smoke all day, smoke on your time, smoke on your time, not my time.
There you go. Now, there's a question of Charlie we'll have to get into next week. I think it's a great one. What about dipping and EMS?
Yeah.
And at first, I thought you meant like taking money. It's like, no, you mean, that's a good,
that's a lot of folks doing it.
We'll get into that.
So that's where you get into like, it's okay for them to dip, but I can't smoke.
Yeah.
And I remember I used to make the smokers mad when I was captain, because I would make them pick up the cigarette butts. I mean, we had to do it. We were mandated to do it, but I wasn't going to do it. I'm not a smoker. They're not my cigarette butts. Y'all can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's that. I think the theme for this whole year is going to be personal responsibility, because it ultimately comes down to, if I choose to smoke, I need to keep it away from your business, so I'm not harming your business. I need to take care of my trash, and I need to do something. God, man, there was a guy I worked with. I've worked with tons of smokers. I've been in EMS I was in EMS solid for 11 years before I semi-retired, and I've still been around it. Tons of smokers. But there was one particular guy who just chain smoked, the cheapest thing he could find. And it didn't matter if he just smoked or not. He smelled horrible all the time. And that's the guy who's going to be in the back of your truck with you. Yeah. That's the guy that walks into a patient's house. We'll get into it next week. We're going to get to body odor. We're going to get into dipping. We're going to get into
just a little thing. I sent a student home once because of body odor.
Oh, that's bad. So we'll get into all that. That's a great thing, Charlie. Thank you for bringing that up. Great.
See us next week, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Just so you know, if you're against alcohol, you can give yours to me. I'm all for it.
Last week. I did.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, you got me some moonshine. Ooh, that was some good stuff too.
Yeah,
it's good. It's good.
Now, just before we part, I just want to say that I'm not against people making their own personal choices. I think the question was from a human resources.
I did say from a human resources perspective. I did say that.
And, you have to make a stance, a policy that's.
Yeah, we can get in even next week. We can get into insurance trying to control our health versus encouraging healthy behavior.
Yeah.
Because that's a is and a should be and an is. Yeah. So, all right. Thanks. You know what? Real quick, tell them. Let's talk about how we can get a hold of the school if they want to get into. I know ACLS is still coming up. PALS is coming up. Research are coming up. What we got?
Well, we've got the ACLS. If you want ACLS, give us a call. If you want PALS, give us a call.
What's the number?
678-561-2368 or AEMT, or go to georgiaemt.com. Let us know. We've got EMT classes starting in March. Can't pull up the exact date, but georgiaemt.com. Come on board.
There you go. And
Spread the word.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to be doing more of this stuff. We're going to be doing all kind of stuff coming up this year, and it's exciting. And I'll keep you updated on my paramedic progress, going through the refresher course and all that. And to find more of my stuff at charlesmcfall.com, you can do that. So anything else? You good?
That's it.
All right. Well, tune in. Let me get back. Tune in next week, Thursday around 2:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on Georgia Institute of EMS on Facebook. We'll take care of it.